presence in California, New Jersey, and New York. And our headquarters is in Southern California, in downtown Los Angeles. So just for those of you who is not familiar with our brand, so just want to give you a quick introduction of our bank. So today's seminar is about our SBA. So we started a partnership with GMCC this year, and we because I know GMCC is very experienced and very strong lender in residential lending. But our and we started a partnership with GMCC, so you can offer SBA products to your customers as well. And also for every successful deal, you will be incentivized for the referral for every deal that
Chinese too. Okay, so hold on. Do we have more people?
So James,
It is not working. We can access. Oh God. Yeah, they are 2%. Very good question. Yeah, up to 2%. Very. That's really good. I couldn't turn on my camera. Okay, I don't know the detail, but they have a little bit. Yeah.
Hey, James,
So yeah,
Mandy.
Derek.
Yeah, Derek has started the presentations already.
Oh, already? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So do you have enough people? We have a lot of people here, right? We should be.
We have 58 people here.
We have 62 participants on the seminar.
Hi, Derek.
So I'm going
Okay.
to you.
Yeah, I think we had about almost 900 people. Not 900. Almost 900 people. 100 people. In 3 years, we will contact each of you.
Sounds good. So
That's good.
excited to be partnership with GMCC, and then on behalf of our bank, we are very grateful to have the connection with GMCC, and hopefully we have a very strong relationship with GMCC going forward. So let's. I'm sorry, James. Do you have anything to share?
I think we should be okay. Well, let's get started. It's already 11. For a few minutes. Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Please go ahead. Yeah. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Lawrence. For the presentation. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't want to say if anyone interested, actually, Derek will be in Burlingame office afternoon. We can do in person as well, about 3 o'clock. If anyone interested, Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, come to Burlingame office. Derek's available. Okay, no, I know. But Derek actually in the Southern California. If you're Southern California, you should be able to see Derek more often, Irvine, COI. But just in the Bay Area, if you want to come, Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Actually, before Derek continue the very exciting presentation, I do want to make sure everyone attention. CTBC can offer rebate even on SBA loan. Okay, that's actually one of the great, of course, it's all good stuff. All right, okay. Sorry, Derek, go ahead. Yeah, or Lawrence. Yeah.
Thank you, James. Yes, we are excited to visit GMCC's headquarters in Burlingame. So we'll be in the Burlingame office in the afternoon. So in case that you want to meet us in person, and then. So I'm going to mute everyone, but Lawrence, please unmute yourself. So and also want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, you could put it in the chat. We'll answer your questions as much as we can, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll also open up to everyone to share your questions there. Thank you, Lawrence.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Good morning, GMCC, and thank you, James. To give us the presentation, the chance regarding for the SBA. So I try to introduce myself. Actually, I'm from Los Angeles. All right. So right now I'm in Las Vegas. In the one of the conference room. To do the presentation. I'm the senior vice president of the CTBC Bank. Actually, CTBC Bank is one of the biggest Asian bank in Asia. Actually, we are in the California, and then in the United States is over 35 years. And then our distribution, we're headquartered in Los Angeles. Okay, of course, yeah, Northern and Southern California, New Jersey and New York. Okay, so we are really active, like SBA lender in the whole nation. In terms of the whole nation, in the United States, we have over 1,800 SBA lender in the whole country. So CTBC Bank, we are one of the really active, the lender, in the California area, which is, I think we are on the top 10%, of the lender, which is a pretty good ranking. Actually, I'm in this business, over 10 years. I used to come with the other, other bank, and then I think I deal with almost like over 1,000 cases, in the SBA lending, which is a lot of volume. And then, so hopefully, I can help, the party to understand what is the SBA loan, and also, so how is the SBA, is able to help the small business. Yes. Yeah. And thank you, Derek. So can you move to the second page? Okay. So first of all, I just want to say, what is the SBA? Actually, the Small Business Administration is starting with 1953. The program is over almost like 70 years, right? The next year is a 70-year anniversary. All right. So our main goal is helping the small business to acquire the commercial loan for expanding their business. All right. If like go back to like 2 years ago, starting with pandemic, the SBA is very famous because we deal with a lot of PPP loan, pension protection plan, a payroll protection plan, which is U.S. government is going by the U.S. SBA platform. It's over 5,800 lender to disperse, their payroll protection payment to the small business to retain their employment. All right. So that is talking about over 10 trillion of the money on the budget. Actually, most of you guys may be receiving the PPP payment and they forgive it, right? Which is pretty happy. And then after that, we still have a EIDL loan, which is emergency and disaster loan, right? Which is also the other SBA program, and then of course, we still have other SBA program, is a PPF, which is helping the local restaurant, and during the pandemic. All right. So that means that Small Business Administration, one is the direct report to the U.S. government. We are on the federal government level and under Treasury Department, to dealing with those kind of the program. And then now pandemic was gone. All right. So we call the starting with the Trump administration, right? I think back to the pandemic, we have a CARE Act, CARE, right, which is a law. Is they're helping the whole country, for the the pandemic situation. But now this one was gone. All right, so now we go back, to the regular program. We call it a SBA 7A or even SBA 504. All right, so this is the regular program. We always have it, to offer, this loan to the small business. And then on the later on, I will go ahead to discuss what is definition of the small, right? So why we are not named like medium business administration, why we call ourselves is small. But of course, the U.S. government will get a very clear definition, what is the definition of small. But I can tell you, over 80% of the United States is belong to the small business. All right, pretty much, it's 80% of a business owner is helping, is able to acquire the SBA loan. And then of course, that is also the spirit, for the commercial, because we don't want to, monopoly, by all the enterprise, in the business, because, according to the experience of PPP, is over 80% of employment in the United States was hired by the small business owner, right? So that's the reason why this money is very, very important, no matter, in what situation, even the pandemic, or, we have a mission, to community development, in our area. Okay, yeah. So the first picture was talking about what is in between the lending. So why, the government was involved in the lending, because I think everybody in this conference room, is expertise for the mortgage, right? So mortgage is, we always have a two party, the bank and then the client, right? So the bank, we are the bank, all right? So we're lending the money, all right? We're lending the money. And then the client is representing our small business client. They always want the money. But in the commercial lending, it's a little bit different, because commercial lending, we always have a lot of concern, because the credit criteria is quite different than the mortgage, because the mortgage is straightforward, to me, right? Because, you just consider FICO score, what is your job, or access qualify. As long as you have a good, the credit score, you have a steady income, you have a good job, you're very stable, the bank is always willing to lend you the money, for your personal property. But commercial is different. So, I can tell, even I've over 10-year experience, I don't never meet with all the individual business, right? Because the business can be everything. Can be in a big category, can be retail store, manufacturer, wholesaler, or the somewhere specialty, like the professional service and all kind of stuff. So that's the reason why the bank is always have a concern about our lending, right? Because we don't know, right? So, you tell me your business is doing pretty good, all right, but we are concerned, your business is fluctuate, because the business trend is always, is upside down, right? Because according to the pandemic, right? Before pandemic, the restaurant is pretty hot business, right? But during pandemic, the hospitality, the hotel, the restaurant, they shut down for a couple of months because they are operate by the lockdown, right? Because the distance requirement, right? So that's the reason why in the 2020, some business is significantly dropped, right? But on the other hand, the other business is growing up, during the pandemic, is benefit by pandemic, because as you remember, like actually myself, I'm the fan for the Amazon Prime, right? So, if I buy something today, I should get it by tomorrow, right? Or by tonight, all right? So that's why, like logistics, and then the local, the wholesale warehouse, or the Amazon or eBay vendor, they're grooming a lot, in the 2020 and 2021, right? So as you say, the business is always upside down, it's never one flat, right? It's always like, can be, today is good, tomorrow is bad, right? So that's the reason why the bank always have a concern. But the business, the business owner, they need what they needed, right? So because the business can be expansion, they need the money for the payroll, they need the money for the working capital. So in this point, U.S. government was involved, right? So U.S. government in the SBA lending is like the middleman in between the lender and then the client. Okay, on the left-hand side, we have a lender. They say, hey, lender, don't worry about it. According to the SBA program, okay, according to the SBA program, your money was like, your money will be protected by the SBA guarantee. What is the SBA guarantees means? Means if I'm lending $100, to the customer, at least they have a 75% is protecting by the U.S. government. That means our risk, can be 100%. If I'm lending $100, if not SBA, my risk can be 100%, can be zero. But according to the SBA program, my risk is 75% less. My risk is only 25%. All right. So for the bank, actually, this is extremely good news, right? Wow. I do my business according to this program. I'm lending my money because, our job, the bank, the business is lending and deposit, right? Lending is one important business for us. But the risk can be like only 1/3, as originally, right? So that's why the bank is really willing to do that, right? Because the risk is less, right? For the lender, this is a benefit. But for the client, this is what they want to get it, right? So, hey, I need the money for buying the property. I need the money for the business expansion. I want to part of buy our business acquisition, equipment, blah, 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 right? The customer, they can get what they get. But what is a benefit for the government? Actually, the government always have a benefit because, as I mentioned before, the SBA money is helping to create the employment, right? If the local government, they have a more employment, more enterprise in their city, on their city, right? That means it's more tax, right? It's more activity, right? In the California, which is really funny because we are from the Los Angeles, all right? So Los Angeles, back to like 20 years ago, I think, we don't to develop the eastbound, right? The east side means Pomona, Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, it's like a desert, right? It's no business there. But now they turn it around, now you see today, right now is everywhere is a business opportunity, such as a warehouse, right? Such as the wholesaler, the Amazon warehouse everywhere, actually the Los Angeles, the Metro Los Angeles is expanding almost a double or almost a triple side, to the east side. And then especially, in the Northern California, same situation, right? Because our landing, not only in the Bay Area, is in the San Francisco, we also go to the Sacramento, right? Sacramento, is one of the very biggest, the good spot, to expanding, because they have more land, there are more friendly business environment, over there. So that's the reason why this is a win-win situation. I can do my business, with less risk. The customer have they get whatever they want, and then the government can reporting to their to the government or to the people. They have a business expansion, right? Yeah. So pretty much this is the concept of the SBA. All right. Derek, please move to the next slide. Hey, Derek.
Can you see the next slide?
Yep. Yeah. So this one, yeah, go one more, please. One more. Yeah, here one. Okay, so this is a lending, right? So the lending is easy from left to right, right? Lender, we're lending. Hey, Derek, go back.
I'm sorry, I think there's some delay on the presentation. So your financial needs is what you want, right? This slide?
No, the one before.
Okay.
Yeah, here you go. All right, so this is like everybody know how's the work, right? Lender, right? From left to right, we're lending one lump sum to the small business. All right, one lump sum means, like 100,000, 1 million, even 10 million, right? To the small business, to our to the owner, fully amortized, right? Can be 10 years, can be 30 years. Actually, in terms of the mortgage, which is a 30-year fix, or 25 or 15 years. But in terms of the SBA, for the commercial real estate, we always stick with 25-year fully amortization, right? Which is like the mortgage. The concept is 25-year fully amortization for the commercial real estate transaction, all right? And then for the non-commercial real estate transaction, later I will explain what is a non-commercial real estate transaction, which is a 10 years, all right? So from the right to left, from the small business to the lender, which is make the small portion of a payment, month by month until the loan being paid off, right? So this is the regular on the top part, like the circle, right? I lend you the money, you pay me back. You lend you the money, you pay me back. Okay, but on the SBA lending, we have a small business which just pay a little bit the SBA guarantee fee, which is in terms of around like 3% of the loan amount to the U.S. government, and then U.S. government will be guarantee entire of the loan, to the lender in terms of the years, for example, the loan was created in 2023, which is 25 years, but the loan was in going fail, on the maybe 2000, 45, right? So actually the SBA was going to have to pay back the lender up to 75% of guarantee. All right. So that is how the SBA work. Okay. And then of course, this concept is pretty like your MI, mortgage insurance. All right. Why I say that? Because mortgage insurance, what is a definition for mortgage insurance? Because the customer do not have the sufficient down payment, right, for the conventional loan, right? So in terms of the commercial, I mean the mortgage, what is a regular down payment requirement for DULP? What is that? 25% or 20%? 20%, right? 20%. So that means the lender can lending up to 80% loan to value and 20% down. All right. But for the commercial lending, if this is not SBA lending for the commercial building, the bank can require up to 50% LTV, 50% down payment, right? 50% down payment. All right. So different banks are different, but most likely it's starting with 50%. Some bank is a 35 or 40%, depends on the type of property, on the what's the usage, right? But for the SBA lending, our loan to value is up to 90%. That means 10% down. 10% down, right? So to the bank, unfortunately, this is very risky. But for the lender, it's pretty good news because they can using less money, to lend more money. Actually the SBA program, the limitation for loan amount can up to almost 13 million. 13 million is up to 10% down payment, right? So this is the SBA concept. Yeah, and can we go to the next slide, please?
Okay, one moment.
Oh, a lot of people joining. All right. Okay, so this one, I need to spend a lot of the, explanation, what is the loan purpose, for the SBA lending. The reason why I say, because as I mentioned, mortgage, which is like more straightforward. Mortgage is more straightforward because mortgage is always, residential, 1 to 4 unit, right? Can be either owner occupied, or primary resident, investment, or second home, right? So this is a mortgage, but commercial is quite different. Okay, according to this table, I will state the top part at the square, as a rectangular, which is commercial real estate related transaction, which is buying the building to conducting their own business. So the one concept I need to clarify, because SBA, we only deal with owner occupied building. So that means your business needs to be occupy the building to conduct your business over 51%. Then your first thing, you're qualified for the SBA lending. So for example, if this building, which is a 10,000 square footage retail store, like I'm in Las Vegas, I love a strip mall, right? So which is like 10,000 square footage. But let's say my client was, they open a grocery store, or whatever. So the customer need to be using at least 51% of the entire building as the owner occupied, right? This is clear. If this building is a multi-family, right, such as you have a 20-unit multi-family, to lease to the tenant, or this is the trophy business, such as I have a plaza, at least to the Starbucks. Of course, the Starbucks is operated by Starbucks, not yours, right? So this one is not considered SBA. This one is considered conventional commercial loan. Of course, our bank, we also do the SBA and then the conventional too. So don't give up. So this one, maybe you can talk to Derek, and Derek is going to help you. But now I'm talking about the SBA, which is we need to stick with the 51% owner occupied rule, which is for the real estate. So the real estate can be very different, and in the very traditional, we have 4 different types of the real estate transaction, such as a retail store, right? So retail store, can be professional use, like the office, like I'm in the office building, it's one of the property management company, which is a real estate. It's an office use purpose, right? Can be retail, retail can be everything, can be loan broker, even the professional practice, such as the clinic, doctor office, dentist office, right? And then can be grocery store, liquor store, or franchise restaurant, this is like the retail, right? And of course, the most likely is a warehouse. As I mentioned before, right now, the warehouse is really, really popular, right? The warehouse, because a lot of people, they change, their shopping habit, from the retail store to the online, right? So I would say this Black Friday, I think the online commercial, the commercial shopping, which is bigger than the retail store, shopping, right? So this is a trend, and then that's reason why the warehouse, have a really high demanding, on top. Yeah, and then I go ahead to give you the other example. For example, the Los Angeles, actually, when I start with this business, in 2012, right? Actually, the 1 square footage, is talking about $100 per square footage, in the Los Angeles, in Pomona, in Chino, something like that. But now we're talking about $400 per square footage, $400. All right. Actually, in Los Angeles, I think the price is almost can match the New York, even more expensive than the New York. All right. And of course, I'm sitting in Las Vegas, because I did the loan like a couple of years ago. The Las Vegas, in the Henderson, I help the customer to acquire the building. It's 130, but now at least I think it's close to 300, maybe 280 per square footage. All right. So that is can give a one really good selling point in here. Why I say that, because if our client, they doing the business, they're paying the rent right now. All right. And then they buy their own building, they own their own building, they still keeping pay the rent to themselves. Actually, the customer can really enjoy, the pretty discount, the rental expenses, right? Because if not only the price, or even the rent, the reason why is because the rent, back to the day, before pandemic is 80 cents per square footage. Now in Los Angeles, it's talking about $2 per square footage. Right, so compare is a big difference. If the customer have a really low cost of the rental expenses, that means their business can be more competitive, right? Because less cost, right? Why not? All right. And on top of it, the customer can using really less down payment, such as 10%, to buy the business, and then but after 10 years, the business is appreciate a lot. Appreciate a lot. Actually, the customer can enjoy the appreciation. If the customer can using 1031 exchange, actually the customer can make a huge money. The reason why I say that, because I have one client. It's a true situation. He's doing toys wholesale. Back to like 2013, and then at the very beginning, I give him the loan is 100,000 working capital. All right. But after a couple of months, he told me, "Hey, Lawrence, I want to buy the own building, in Ontario, 7,000 square footage with one loading dock, 1 million. All right, easy, right? 7,000 square footage, 1 million. All right, okay. And then the down payment, which is I require, 15%. So the customer just put like 150,000 as a down payment, but the 100,000 is for me because I lending him the working capital. He's actually come up with a 50,000 out of pocket to buy this building. And after 2 years, this building was. Actually the customer say this building is too small. He need to upgrade it. Okay, sell it. And then after 2 years, they appreciate from 1 million to the 1.8 million. All right, actually this is the 800,000 appreciation. All right, and then the customer using 1031 exchange. This 80,000, is 800,000, 800,000, not 80,000, 800,000. Is a tax deferral. And then, he going to have to buy the bigger warehouse, almost 18,000 square footage in Chino, which is a 2.5 million. I remember it's 2.5 million. All right. And last year, and he sell this building, is a 4.2 million. All right, 4.2 million. And now, and then he using the 1031 exchange again, and then he's going to put this all amount of the appreciation, with the 1031 exchange to the one building is talking about a 35,000 square footage in St. Bernardino. So now this property is talking about at least 9 million because $300 per square footage and 35,000 square footage. So my question is, what is the original cost for my customer? 50,000, right? 100,000 is for me, 50,000 down payment, right? The first layer, 180,000. 180,000 to the 250,000, 2.5 million, 2.5 million to the 4.2 million, 4.2 million, to the now is a 9 million. All right. So a lot of our client, by the last 10 years is using this program, to, of course, they have a really stable, the owner occupied warehouse, and also they really appreciate, on the property appreciation, from the trend, right? Yeah. So this is true story, and then I think this is a very good talking point if you try to upsell, this program, to your client, because if you're using, like, for example, if my client have a 1 million cash on hand, 1 million cash on hand, and then if they want to buy the building, through the SBA for the owner occupied, the maximum capacity of the loan is 10 million, right? 1 million down, 9 million loan, right? But if you go to the conventional lending, right? So the 1 million, I would say, if the bank always require 40% down payment, so maybe the customer can buy the 2.5 million, the building. So you can compare 10 million to the 2.5 million is a huge difference, on a square footage. In terms of the warehouse, if this is a $300 per square footage, like the 10 million is talking about over 30,000 square footage. But for the regular program, maybe only 7,000 or up maybe 8,000 square footage. So, if you are the business, you need a space such as the warehouse, wholesaler, even the drop ship, because right now, a lot of business is go to the logistic, right? A lot of inventory from China, right? So they stock in here, overseas warehouse, something like that. Actually, they really need the space. And of course, their distribution center or the trucking company, actually the SBA program, can help them to acquire really sizable building, for the business. So this is a commercial real estate purchase, 10% down. And also the SBA, we can do the renovation, even the tenant improvement or the construction loan, right? This is our job. We try to help the customer to do the major renovation, the TI. So why I say that? Because actually I love a business, they require the special features for the conducting business. Because I'm in Las Vegas now. Actually like 5 years ago, I have one customer, they do the business expansion, they do the hot pot store, in the Southern California, they expand their business to the Tropicana Boulevard, they buy the building, right? To do their hot pot shop, right? So the Chinese hot pot. All right. But unfortunately, this building originally is Mexican restaurant. It's a Mexican restaurant. But of course, you try to help the customer buy the building, which is not too expensive. I think I remember it's 1.5 million, right? But the client, they buy the restaurant, but it's not in their own style. They need to convert it. So the first thing, I try to help the customer using 15% down to buy the building, 1.5 million. All right. And then the second step is I try to work with the customer to do the renovation, right? Because they need to change, the renovation, from his own purpose of the business, right? So the property is talking about like 300,000, include to do the renovation, all right? And also, this client also needs something else, right? Because they need the equipment, right? Restaurant, which is one of the very typical SBA loan because the restaurant always need the kitchen, right? Or furniture, right? So kitchen and furniture is the one of the SBA lending type, right? So we can help the customer to buy their, they build out their Chinese style restaurant, right? Such as they change their, the food, refrigerator, even the all kinds of stuff, and then buy the furniture, all right? And then the last thing, they need the working capital. All right. So why I say this example, because this is a very typical SBA loan because the SBA concept, you try to help the customer, to establish the business until they can operate the business. So because one business do not only need one purpose of the loan. Like this restaurant, actually they have a 4 to 5 type of transaction. Number one is buy the building. Number two is tenant improvement. Number three is equipment or furniture. Number four is a working capital. Or, if this customer is going to take over the existing business, such as if the business have a liquor license, something like that, they can do the business acquisition. So that is a really good example for the SBA lending to help the customer to do all kinds of these transactions all into the one loan and to help the customer to establish their business, right? So that is a really, really different and unique, for the SBA lending compared with the different commercial lending because different commercial lending, they can do, their pretty good interest rate, up to 60% loan to value, but they only have interesting about your building, right? If you want to build your own restaurant, like kitchen, you need to do all by your own, or you need to go to the equipment leasing company, right? Such as, like a kitchen equipment, or the renovation, you need to on your own, right? Working capital, you need on your own. That means in terms of this type of the transaction, the customer may require more down payment because the lender, they don't interest to lending, according to this subject, but SBA is willing to do that. All right. So this is a commercial real estate transaction, all right? And also on the top part and then the bottom part, we have a couple circle, which is I try to explain, if some customer, they may only need, for the commercial real estate, they have a different need, maybe from the left to the right. The left top, which is a working capital, actually the customer, they need the money for operate the business, such as if the wholesaler, if they, let's say, because right now everybody here the term is very popular, the supply change, right? Supply change. What's the supply change? Supply change means, they're really difficult. They buy their stuff, from overseas to United States, but they have a really big problem, for the logistics, right? So because, in the back to the day, Los Angeles port is really crazy because we're stuck in too many inventory, on the sea, in the port, in the transaction, right? But the problem is, if you buy something from overseas or from your wholesaler, they really want you to give them the money in the short term, right? They don't want to give you the long term, because our small business is pretty small, they cannot compare with the Walmart, like the Costco, right? They can, pay the vendor, like over 90 days, 180 days. They don't, they really want to be receiving the money right away. So that's the reason why, you need to pay them the money. But on the other hand, your merchant is going to selling to the Costco, or the department store. They don't want to pay you very quick, So that's why, we always have a gap in between. We call the trade finance the turnaround time, because we need to pay first, receiving less, right? So that's the reason why, the working capital, is pretty likely they need it, because once they have additional money instead of their own cash, they can have a more turnaround time, right? Even, for example, you have $100 on your pocket, but, you're receiving the money in every 90 days. So that means your $100 can do the full time of business, right? But how about if you have a $200? That means you double up, the speed of your business, right? You can do 2 times, right? So because every $100 can turn around 2 times on the year, right? So that is what the working capital need, right? So this is the working capital. And also, the other working capital is not from trade finance, such as my previous example, is the restaurant, because they need to hire the people, marketing, establish costs, like utility bill. Actually, this is other need for working capital too. All right. So this is working capital need. From left to right, which is the equipment. As I mentioned, a lot of the customers, they need the equipment to conduct their business. Like the kitchen, I explained, before. And then also maybe you're dealing with your dentist, right? So your dentist, they really need to build out the dentist, right? Like the chair, compressor, X-ray, all kind of stuff. Or I have a client to do their produce wholesaler, right? Because Los Angeles is one of the produce wholesalers. They sell bok choy, fruits, to the whole United States. Actually the product is from Mexican, from Vietnam, from China, to the United States. And then they order, centralized in the Los Angeles downtown, and then they disperse to the Northern America, even the Canada, right? Or, the product is shipping to China, right? Back to the day, because I do most of the product is commodity good, which is strawberry, cherry, beef, salmon, even sometimes I do the fa hay, right? They sell agriculture product, to the whole nation, of it to all the country, which is like they need the special equipment to conduct it, right? So this is also the SBA loan. All right. And then in the red circle, we know, which is like pretty SBA unique transaction, which is we call business acquisition or part of buyout, right? What is a business acquisition mean? Actually, it happens daily because I'm in Southern California. We have a lot of Chinese restaurants. Even in Las Vegas, the same thing, right? So the Chinese restaurant, they always have a name like, Lucky Star, Good Lucky Star, Little Lucky Star, Golden Lucky Star. All kind of those change of name, right? So every time you see the name was changed, that means the business was taken over by somebody else, right? So this is a business acquisition, right? Because they can sell the transaction like the equipment, business assets, even the intangible assets, and also one of the biggest SBA lending is a franchise. In the SBA lending, we have over couple 10,000 franchise is approved by SBA, such as Yoshinoya, Burger King. All right. I do the Pizzology, the Pizza Hut, something like that. This is a famous fast food franchise. And also franchise such as hotel, hospitality. I do a lot like the loan to the Hilton Garden Inn, Marriott, something like that, which is a franchise. And other type of franchise is very popular is a gas station, right? The gas station can be 76, Arco, Shell, Actually, all I just mentioned about those franchises are approval by SBA. They can either, sell the property, sell the business, take the equipment, all kind of stuff can be doing SBA lending. Actually, franchise is one of the biggest, the franchise lender, in the whole United States. So if you have any idea, that any client they do those business, you can always mention SBA lending. All right. And then the one, which is the business debt refinance, right? So actually, back to the last 2 years, everybody is expert here. Everybody is a fight for the property with cash. I don't want the contingency, right? I don't want to give it a 20 days. I don't want to give it 10 days. I want a cash deal, cash deal, cash deal. Of course, cash deal, they create the one. Of course, you take the property, but on the other hand, that means this is like the high yield loan, right? The hard money lending. All right. So the SBA, which is a pretty good concept, we help our business, business owner, to pay off, their high yield interest rate, because the high interest rate always have a very short term, right? Maybe 1 year, not more than 2 years. You have money, right? The interest rate can be really high, right? Back to the day, it can be 10%, right? But right now, I think it can be over 2 digits. And then it also is interest only, right? But for the SBA lending, we're using the long-term debt to pay off the short-term debt. Our long-term debt is always a 10-year fully amortization loan to pay, and then principal plus interest to pay off the short-term, 1 or 2 year mature, interest only, and high interest rate. So we can always convert it, those type of the hard money loan into the SBA lending. So this is the concept. And the last one is export, because SBA is government loan, right? So if you remember, our president, always mentioned about it. We always want U.S. product to export to the other country. That means we make money, to the other country, right? If a lot of import, this means that other people they make too many money from us, right? Which is call the trade deficit, right? So that's the reason why I mentioned SBA always have a pretty good program for export. All right. So in this chart, I spent a lot of time, the purpose is try to open eye to every single of you. SBA can do a lot of those kind of transactions, under SBA lending. Okay. Any question about the transaction? Yes.
Business acquisition that you mentioned. What are your criteria or risk analysis based on business? Let's just say I thought about it. Maybe I'm like, hey, Lawrence, I'm going to go. Well, my name's Kit. I thought about, maybe I'm going to go open the ABC Lucky Star restaurant. Now we all know that there's a million restaurant that is open. Versus, I'm going to go in there and open a dog hotel business. What do you guys look at as far as risk analysis? Who you guys lend to?
Good question. Yeah, I have an audience to ask you, what is the criteria for the SBA, like on the credit side, to look into some transaction, like the business acquisition and startup? I will go ahead to explain later, because I will special chapter to talk about how to really look into the credit. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question. Then hold on a little bit, and then that was a more explanation. Okay, yeah. Derek, can you move to the next slide? All right. So this one, as I mentioned before, I can do it very quick. We can do like on the top part, which is 4 really conventional type of transaction: service, manufacturing, wholesaler, and retail. And then on the bottom part, I always mention too, because for some lender, which is we call non-conventional. Non-conventional means that property is in single purpose of the property, right? Because what is single purpose means, if you're a gas station, you can always be the gas station, right? You cannot be the wholesaler. You cannot be a warehouse. Restaurant, always be the restaurant, Hotel, motel, always hotel, motel. And then the car wash, always a car wash. It's not easy to convert it. For the client, of course, they're dealing with a special use building. But for the lender, it's high risk. It's high risk for me because, in case something going wrong, I take over the building. Unfortunately, I take over the building. I'm not easy to resell, right? So that's the reason why for the conventional lending, they don't like the single purpose special use building, because we always consider high risk. But for the SBA, we don't too worry about it, because we have a back pocket, on the back, we have an SBA guarantee. So that can explain why, the SBA can take chance on the high risk business, for the bank, right? So this is a type, I say, non-conventional special purpose. Special purpose, the red channel is a motel, hotel, hospitality, car wash, gas station, and restaurant, right? So this is considered non-conventional lending. Okay, yeah. Can you move one more slide? Okay, so now I talk about a little bit technical part. What is considered small? What is considered small, right? So in small, we are not only financing mom and pop, like 1 people, 2 people employee, not necessarily like that. Actually, the government was given really clear explanation, in terms of the financial statement, what is a small. The first definition is the net income cannot exceed 5 million. So what is a net income mean, all right? So if you have a chance, to look into the business tax return, the 1020. Okay, so for the first line, always is a gross sales, right? So how many business you're doing, right? And minus your cost of goods sold, what is your cost? And then you have a gross income, right? But gross income is not finished, and then you need to pay your salary, employee compensation, rent, depreciation, utility bill, other deduction, and then that was come with a net, right? So net, which is, that is a taxable income, right? Whatever you report here, if this is a C Corp, it's a taxable rate array. If this is S Corp, you go to your K1, right? So this is a taxable income. So think about it. If your company, after all kind of deduction, they still have a 5 million net profit, that is really, really strong company, right? Because even I tell you, some customer was buying the Tesla every year, buy the Ferrari, try to offset all kind of number. But the whole purpose, is like to reduce, the net profit, because this is taxable. So in the SBA lending, if this property is the profit is exceeding 5 million, and the net worth, the business assets, business assets means your cash, inventory, account receivable minus your liability, you still have a 50 million or above. If you meet both criteria, unfortunately, this is not the SBA customer. All right, but I can say I think I almost screened almost a couple 10,000, the case. I only see 1 or 2 do not meet this requirement, right? So, because 5 million net is very crazy, because the IRS you need to pay the IRS at least the 2 million tax, to the tax. But I don't think even a lot of the public trading companies, they don't report that much, So that's why, the SBA, the criteria is pretty, is pretty flexible, all right? And then, of course, this is a couple with criteria for the SBA lending. Number 1, this is U.S. government loan, right? U.S. government loan. The U.S. government loan means we need to finance the U.S. business, include their ownership. So the business needs to be profit organization in United States, and then the majority shareholder. Majority shareholders mean 51% of the shareholder needs to be U.S. citizen or resident. All right, if this is a client, because we deal with a lot, like back to the day, we deal with a lot with EP5, something like that. If the building of the business owner, is owned by foreign company, like China, Taiwan, Thailand, wherever. So this is cannot be the SBA lending. This the ownership and in the business needs to be domestic, right? Okay. So the last but not less, which is 51% own occupy requirement, I already explained. The customer need to using at least 51% of entire square footage, on the building, So this is a very basic SBA requirement. And also, there's some SBA, is not lighted, right? So number 1 is a gambling. We cannot finance gambling. We cannot finance a financial institution. We cannot finance the lobbying, marijuana, right? It's because of marijuana, which is federal, is not legal. State, yes. But federal is not legal, but SBA is a federal government program. So that's the reason why we are not allowed to do that. All right. Taxable indicator, which is like always like not welcome, or non-profit organization or religion. All right. So this is a no for the SBA. All right. But typically, most of the business, if this is like the regular business in the United States, they will fit in the SBA lending. All right. All right, Derek, please move on. All right. So SBA lending, we always talking about the term and condition, right? Because the loan, we always mention about the term. As I mentioned, for commercial real estate, we have 25-year fully amortization. All right. So 25-year, which is pretty good. And then this loan is really similar like the mortgage. The reason why I say because when you start the mortgage, like 30-year loan, you're starting with this year, 2022, you pay off in 2052, right? In between, you don't need to refinance unless you want to, right? Technically, you can pay off until you pay off, right? So that is like, but SBA is pretty similar, but we are using most likely for commercial real estate, we're doing that 25 years in terms of 25 years. So we don't require the customer refinance every 5 years or 3 years, right? So because for the conventional lending, we always need the customer refinance every 5 to 10 years. All right, but for the SBA lending, we don't. So what does it mean, for the customer, right? Actually, this is a very meaningful because if any situation it happens on the business or the business environment, when you need to refinance, you will stuck on there. Back to the day, if I have a commercial loan, I need to refinance. But today is 2020 March. Everybody remember what's happened, what's going on in 2020 March, right? Because the stock market was melt down, they lose like almost a couple thousand points per day. Actually, even though your business is really sustained, but do you think the lender is willing to give you the extension or want to give you to renew the loan? I don't think so, right? Because it's not because of business, it's the whole environment, right? But for the SBA lending, we don't have this kind of concern because SBA, we don't need to refinance. So even though this is go back to 2008 or 2020, we don't call the loan as long as the customer, they pay us back on time. And then during the pandemic, even the good point is the SBA helped the customer pay 6 times payment in 2022. And the SBA, they pay the other 2 payments to help the customer in 2021. All right. So we are not only extend the loan, not call the loan, even the SBA, they have the customer make the 8 times payment in the 2 years. Right. So a lot of my customer will pretty enjoy this payment because I have a customer is talking about 9 million loan, right? So you think the payment is talking about 360,000 for this 8 payment. Actually, the SBA is paid for free, right? We are not only need the customer renew, we don't never give the hard time to the customer, even though the SBA is pretty generous, to help the customer make the payment for the 2 years, all right, to 8 times in terms of 24 months. All right, so this is the SBA lending, all right. Okay, and then if for non-commercial real estate, we always have a 10-year amortization. 10-year amortization means it's pretty long enough because if for the same customer, like the logistic company, if they buy the truck, for the business, right? So everybody know, if you buy the truck or buy the car, the vehicle, your loan can only up to 60 months, 5 years, right? But the SBA lending can be due at 10 years. It's really fully amortized, right? So what is a 10-year to 5 million means? The payment is 3 times less than the short term. Let's say, if 100,000 car loan, 5 year, the payment is 3,500 per month. But in terms of 10 years amortization, the payment is 1,100 per month. That means if you can afford 3,500 in the SBA lending, you can apply 3 times more than conventional loan, almost at 300,000. Right, so this is the easy concept. So that's the reason why 25 years and 10 years, which is always a pretty generous, SBA term for the lending. Of course, our interest rate is adjustable, right? We are on Prime Plus. Unfortunately, Prime is pretty high right now, but I think one day we will go down. All right. So for the commercial real estate, we always start with Prime Plus 1 or Prime Plus 1.5 because we pay broker referral fee up to 2% according to the pricing. All right. So that is really, really strong. It's 200 bps, right? To the referral broker like you guys, right? So of course, you can let me know what kind of transaction, and then the pricing is subject to the payout is subject to pricing, right? So because not always marking up too high because the interest rate, the primary is too high right now. So anyway, we pay a pretty decent referral fee. All right. And then what's the last? Okay. Yeah. So which is a fully amortization, as I mentioned. Okay. Derek, can go next. All right, SBA always have a two program, because the PPP EIDL is gone, no more, right? So right now we go back to the regular 7A and 504, all right? Derek, can you go one more? All right, 7A, which is our bank is preferred lender. That means we can make the decision for the SBA. We don't necessarily have a secondary approval from the SBA lending. So that means if you work with our bank, so you can pretend, you work with the direct lender, right? You don't need to secondary approval. We don't need to. As long as I agree, I can structure the loan. We can make the loan out, and then we can funding. We can do everything, in our bank, all right? So SBA 7A is up to 5 million limitation because that is the SBA limit. The per single, borrower, they can up to 5 million, which is a maximum. Of course, we have a way to extend our credit to more than 5. I can explain later, but typically, we are up to the 5 million. So the SBA can apply again and again. For example, like 5 years ago, you can apply the working capital loan, and after 2 years, you want to apply the other 7A, to do the working capital, or do the equipment. Yes, you can do the tenant improvement. You can buy the property as long as, all the up to 5 million. For the convention, for the 25-year amortization, commercial real estate, we always have a 3-year prepayment penalty. So 3 million prepayment penalty. Let's say, the loan was done in 2023. The prepayment penalty will end in the 2026. Right, the penalty, the schedule will be 531. The first year is 5%, second year 3%, last year is 1%. This is with the 25-year amortization commercial real estate loan. For the non-commercial real estate loan, 10 years, we don't have a prepayment penalty. The customer can pay back anytime they want to, right? No penalized, right? So this is the SBA 7A, all right? And then the SBA 7A can always do the combo. As I mentioned before, the restaurant business, which is we using SBA 7A, for the transaction, because we need to structure the loan into the two parts. Number one is commercial real estate, which is 25-year amortization. This is the one loan. And then the rest, like the equipment, like the tenant improvement or working capital, we structure the loan under the 10 years for the amortization loan. So we can always a la carte, our financing need by using SBA 7A. Yeah, because I also want to try to explain what is the difference in between the experienced lender or the not explain, but I would say what is a mainstream lender or non-mainstream lender. So as I mentioned at the beginning, and we have a 1,800 SBA lender in the country. So of course, I would say maybe top 40% is really active, like us. We are really active. We do the business every single day. But some lender, they're not too active, maybe once a year, maybe sometime like that, right? But in the very active lender, we have a two different type. The one is a mainstream. So mainstream means Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Bank of America, like Bank of the West, which is called mainstream, right? Actually, for the SBA lending, they have the best of the best price, right? They can do the fixed rate, 4.25 fixed for 25 years, they can do that. But on the other hand, they are really picky, just like your mortgage, right? If your customer is very qualified, full doc, of course, they can walk into the BOA to get the best of the best interest rate. They don't need to looking for the broker, right? So because they're the best of the best, right? So that's the reason why the mainstream lender, they always very, very picky because number one, they offer very fast interest rate, but on the other hand, their credit box is very tight, right? They don't want to too complicate transaction. They always want the commercial real estate. They don't want to do the renovation. They don't want to do the business acquisition. They don't want to do the startup. They only want the property because property is easy to justify, right? So let's say in this situation, we need to go to a broker or go to our second tier lender like us because we of course we love to do the very straightforward transaction. But if this business is pretty complicated, we also can able to handle it. So this is like the business opportunity from you guys, from the broker, and to the bank, because we can always help the other type of transaction by using SBA 7A because we are the preferred lender. All right. Okay, Derek, please move on. Wow, almost 1 year. 1 hour. Okay, the 7A 504, if the transaction is more than 5 million, okay, so we need to using file 4, all right? So file 4 actually is a partnership program. This is the example I try to explain how this file 4 work. Because let's say, this is a 10 million transaction, the customer put 1 million down, 10% down. And then our bank will offer one conventional loan up to 50% for the first deed of trust, right? First deed of trust, 50% loan to value, which is 5 million. And then the SBA can do like other 4 million, like this transaction, all right? This file 4, we also pay the broker referral on the first deed of trust up to half point, all right? Compared with 7A, which is less, but think about it, file 4 always deal with bigger transaction, because the property can easily go up to 5 million or above right now. Actually, this is not too common, right now. So we did file 4, we can only for the business property purchase, and then we pay the broker referral fee of the first deed of trust, all right? And this one can help over 5 million transaction. I would say more 5 million transaction most likely is like the big warehouse, like the 20 to 30,000 square footage, or motel, hotel. It's easy to come like 10 million, even 20 million. We do have a lot. So this is a file 4 case. All right, Derek, move on, please. Okay, now this is my interest part. The most interest part, we talk about credit, right? So what is hey, Lawrence, you say, hey, SBA program is universal. We can deal with different type of transaction, different type of customer. All right. So, but I heard it, the SBA is very difficult, right? The SBA, I don't know how to qualify, SBA department is like the DMV department. When you go in, you never come out, right? So, but anyway, but I can explain, why, what we are looking into their business, on the credit. Okay. And then this is also, it help you to pre-screen, your client. Okay. Okay. For the mortgage lending, right? Personal credit is first thing first, right? I would say that, because if you only have a 500 FICO score, you cannot get money from everywhere, because you're too challenged because your personal characteristic, it's a little bit situation, right? But for the SBA lending, for the personal credit, I would say our FICO is start with 650. All right, pretty reasonable, right? Not too harsh, right? So as long as you don't have a most recent bankruptcy, like tax deferral or something like that, we take it, So our personal credit requirement is not too big, requirement, right? But first thing first, we will look into on the left part is the business performance. So business performance, put it as a simple thing is, this is how you report your tax. Your tax, you need to report with the cash flow. Cash flow means you need to report to the IRS, you're making money on your business, right? Simple, right? So we need to look in your tax return, because I will describe myself as a cash flow lender. As long as you're willing to report the tax to the IRS, I'm willing to believe, you're making money. So don't tell me, my business is very, very good, very busy, but on the tax return, you always report the negative, right? And everything. So you don't have a cash flow, right? But we always mention about, cash flow. So that means you need to report the tax. I can rely on your tax, do the EBITDA recall, EBITDA pretty like is your fund back ratio, your PITI, right? Okay, your fund ratio, back ratio, right? So your fund ratio, this should be good. But your fund ratio, this is not your salary. This is your business net income, right? EBITDA, which is earning before tax, depreciation, amortization, right? If you buy the property, you add back the rent, EBITDA plus rent, you need to be reasonable, all right? I would say if you have a chance, to look in, you have a chance to look into the business tax return, which is like 10, 20 first page. You just pick up some number, like the net income plus the depreciation plus interest plus the rent, right? If you add all the numbers together, right? If you have 100,000, that means this customer can qualify 1 million SBA loan. as a loan amount. So 1 million SBA loan means the customer can buy 1.2 million property, 200,000 down, 1 million loan, 25-year, time plus one. All right. So now everybody's expert now, right? When you have a chance, look in your tax return, the kind of tax return. If you add back your net income, depreciation, interest, some amortization, plus the rent, if you have 100,000, that means the customer can qualify 1 million, right? So can be all kind of combination. For example, if the customer, paying 10,000 rent per month, so that means the customer, have a 120,000 rent per year, rental expenses. But on the bottom part, for the net income can be really mild, maybe zero or just 1,000. But for this customer, still can qualify 1.2 million loan because the EBITDA was there, right? So every time, if you see the customer have those kind of cash flow, bingo, that means, they have a business opportunity. Then you can talk about the SBA loan, right? Hey, you can then using less down payment to buy the bigger building, right? And then you can control your rent, and then you can enjoy the appreciation. And then because the customer pay the rent right now, is paying to the landlord. After 25 years, the property belongs to the landlord. It's not belongs to our client, right? So this is the business performance. Okay, and the second part, which is like the year of operation, right? So for the SBA lending, as long as you have a 12-month operation, 1 year tax return, we can start consider. So we don't need like 5 years, 10 years, just start with 1 year. And then the business credit, this should be good, right? This is business credit, which is non-negative, I would say. What's a negative item? Let's say you have a tax lien, EDD, right? Even you have a judgment. This is a negative tax credit. All right. So if you don't have this thing, this is like we can consider as good credit. And then the most important is experience. All right. So actually, I try to answer, my previous question. What is the customer look into? What is the lender look into the qualification? Number one is experience, because lender is highly rely on the top business owner experience to run their business. They pay me back the money, right? So this is makes sense, right? So if I have one client, you say, hey, I have a good passion, on to do the chief, I want to open the Golden Ramsey, like Hell Kitchen. I just stopped by Caesar Paris, Hell Kitchen. I want to learn him. I just graduated from school. I never operate a business, but I want to start up my business. As the Michelin 5-star restaurant. My answer is say no. No way. I don't believe you will succeed, right? Because you don't have an experience for this type of business, right? But if on the other hand you are working with the company, it's been a long time, you have those kind of fully experience in the management, even in the kitchen, on the restaurant. Yes, I believe you are doing good. All right. So experience is the first thing first. Of course, there's some kind of the business, we need to rely on a professional, such as, because you guys are mortgage business, right? You're the broker, right? Even like CPA, lawyer, insurance broker, all kind of broker, investment broker, those type of lawyer, CPA, tax service, EA, enrollment agents, so kind of professional license, we always believe. So this is experience is number one. And on top of it, with the business performance, business credit, 650, year of operation 1 year, no negative business credit. Then, pretty likely, we can do the case happen. Of course, credit is like a puzzle, right? We only have 5 pieces, but I would say the business can be like 1,000 piece or 2,000 piece puzzle. We put it together. But this is my job. This is not your job, right? But my job is, we try to figure out more and more detail, on the client. So this is my job. If you have any client, they're interesting about it, talk about it. Yes, just give us a call, and then Derek and me will take over, from there to talk to the customer to find what they needed. Even sometimes the customer, they don't even know what they needed, but I know what they needed because I deal with too many clients, So that is our job, to take over from there. So, yeah. And then the last page, I will try to explain is, if you have to, Derek, can we move one more? Yeah. So last thing, if your client was interesting about this program, and then you just ask the customer, what is the preparation? Preparation is easy. We just need the customer to prepare tax return. 3-year tax return from the business, personal, and personal financial statement, which we can provide later. Okay, so when the case come in with the financial, I will go ahead to review the tax return. I will go ahead to understand what is the financing need, what's a project, from the customer, and then I can give you like 3 type of answer. Number 1 is doable. Yes, bingo, right? Yes, good job. This case is doable. Then, we will move to our regular procedure to work with our credit policy and all kinds of stuff. And then we will go ahead to collect the money, we start the loan. All right, commercial real estate, I would say 60 days to 90 days. Because we are not dealing with 21 days, right? Because the contingency, we are not only financing contingency, we also have the, if this is commercial real estate, we need to deal with environmental report and appraisal report, which is almost like 30-day turnaround time. All right, so this is commercial real estate. But if this is business acquisition, right, by the business, actually the transaction is different because we need to do the business evaluation, which is the business tax. The business appraisal for the business evaluation, which is take out the 30 days. All right, so the 30-day turnaround time. So always the loan is starting with 60 days to 90 days, depends. And then if there's sometimes it take a little bit longer, such as if this is business acquisition or the tenant improvement, that'll take a little bit longer. All right. Okay. And my second question will be no, the case is not doable, such as this is not eligible for the SBA or the cash flow is not there. No case. This is fast. I can turn around in 5 minutes. If you give me enough information, everything, I can make a decision in 5 minutes. Right. So no case. Right. And then last, which is maybe, right? Maybe you have a lot of a customer. They're interesting about it. Okay. But the tax return is not ready. Let's say, I can see the customer have an uptrend, for the last couple of years, but, maybe they want to buy the building is too big, right? Their cash flow is not there yet. So I can always give it an advance, what is our expectation, on the tax return. Think about it. Today is almost December. So the next tax season is on February. So actually, once we can always visit, from 2019 to 2021 tax return, and then ask the customer to prepare 2022 tax return, right? And then for the interest environment, now I understand, the interest rate is pretty up, but I would say you stop there, right? And then the interest rate, the primary will be pretty likely we're going down on the 2023 second half, right? Back to the day, I think the economic or the transaction will be increased, right? So maybe this is the good time, to try to talk to as much as more customer, to get their attention about the loan, and then we can help them on the spot. All right. So pretty much this is my presentation today. Any question?
I think there are some questions on the Q&A. I think Derek already answered, right? So any other questions?
Does there have to be a minimum 3 years? That
No. Actually, the SBA can do a startup. Actually, the startup loan is is a 0 year, of the operation. But as I mentioned, the first thing we relied on is experience, and then the personal credit is to be strong. Okay. And then if we try to make the case, number 1, the customer need to come up with a business plan, right? You need to tell me what's going on to the next 2 years. The business plan have the business model, what is the projection, and what is the startup cost. Of course, the most important is, if I would say the startup loan, I need the hard collateral, such as the personal property, right? Because this is very important because it's a startup, all right? So not necessarily, you need to have a 3-year established. But I would say in January, I would consider 1 year. Is for 1 year, 1 year to establish. Yeah. Then we can start the consider the loan. Yeah.
What about a franchise? If you're going to buy a building in a franchise,
The question is about franchise. Do you require experience?
No. Franchise is like that. It really depends on what type of transaction. The franchise is what type of franchise? The gas station, or you give me some idea. What kind of franchise? Fast food?
Fast food. How about fast food? People
What's the
are
most approved? Which one's the most approved?
It doesn't matter. Anything can be fast food, can be hotel, motel, gas station, anything you name it. Sometimes I saw the dentist is a franchise. Yeah. So okay, number one, if a requirement for franchise, it really depends on what type of the transaction. All right. Some franchise, I would say, is a business acquisition. Means the franchise is already established, but the existing franchisee, they want to sell their business to somebody else. They want to join the franchise, right? This is type of franchise. But this franchise, they only sell the business, not involve the commercial real estate. Okay. So for the lender, number one is we need the franchise agreement. All right, franchise agreement, because all the franchisee and franchisor, they have an agreement. So this agreement, I will go ahead to do some research. Our SBA website, we call the franchise dictionary, something like that. And then if the franchise is pre-approval, means the franchisee is already discussed this franchise with SBA, they already pre-approval. They always have an addendum for the franchisee. So that means this loan is eligible for the SBA lending if this is a pre-existing pre-approval franchise with SBA department. Okay, if this franchise is not under SBA approval, I would say this is really, really challenge because both lawyers, they need to take a long time to discuss the franchise agreement. So this one, I would say, is not ready for SBA. But most of the case I saw this is a franchise ready. So just give me the franchise agreement. And number two, if this is a business acquisition, all right, I need to see the seller tax return. The seller tax return. The seller needs to be, the business needs to be performed. It's a good business, right? Okay. And on top of it, our client needs to be experienced to run the similar type of transaction with their personal property. Then the case is doable. This is always how we deal with the franchise. Of course, if the business acquisition, they still have a lot of a technical part, but I would say I will go ahead to discuss case by case because every franchise is different, or every business acquisition is a different situation. Yeah. What is the other question? Do I answer your question?
Okay, any question? If not, okay, thanks so much, Lawrence. Thank you, Derek. I think the contact information I also email to everybody for Derek confirmation, but the Lawrence confirmation also there. So yeah, you guys can email to.
Yeah. We still have a chance, because I'm coming to your headquarters on Friday. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any question, you can write it down, or you can give me a call. Give me Derek a call, and then the contact information is on the last page of the presentation. You can always ask Derek. I will next to him, and then you can always able to locate where I am, and then I can discuss with you, on your customer. Right. Or even sometime if you want the lender, to talk to the customer, I can always do that. Okay. So because we are going to provide really hands-on, support, to our partner like you guys. So if you have any clients they want to learn about it, I definitely can reserve our time, with you and with your client, to try to make it more direct, on the communication.
Okay, thanks so much, Lawrence and Derek. Just again, Friday afternoon in Birmingham office, if in the Bay Area, you're welcome to come by so you can have direct conversation, get help from Derek and Lawrence. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. That concludes our seminar today. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and wish everybody have a great day, and then happy holidays.
Happy holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye.